Hello and welcome to this special extra live edition of Wired and Live. Live, I'll say it again, here from our nation's capital, right here in the halls of Congress. I am Tim Rice, DailyWire's Washington bureau chief, joined by my esteemed colleague, Daily Wire opinion editor, Ben Domenech. We have a jam-packed show for you guys today. We are going to be sitting down with some of the best and our favorite members of Congress here at the Republican Study Committee's New Media Row. Let's get right into it. We are joined by none other than Texas Congressman Chip Roy. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us.
Tim, Ben, great to be here.
So let's start with one of the topics that everyone is sort of on everyone's mind these past few weeks. What's going on with all these missing scientists?
Every interview, man, it's the first question right off the gate. You know, it's like we got people, dealing with immigration issues. We're dealing with, Iran. And it's like, this is the first question. But, it actually is something that has captured some people's imagination. I think rightly so. You got 11 people here, at least somehow connected tangentially to our national security apparatus. And it certainly raises questions. I was on Fox earlier, and, I said, I think I'm probably in the camp where the president is, which is, look, I hope they're not connected. I hope I hope this is random. I think was that the president's words? I hope it's random. But we have a duty to go look into it and go research it. And I'm a Jeffersonian, as Ben knows, like follow truth wherever it may lead. So, look, we should do that, investigate it. But also, I'm a former prosecutor. Like, you put stuff on a board. There are thousands and thousands of employees of all these different entities, and I realize that there is a nexus here, so it's interesting. But, when I was the first assistant attorney general, and I always joke, there's 4,100 employees. If only 1% of them were doing something crazy, that means 41 people are running around doing something crazy. So, you got a high percentage, you got a high number of federal employees. We have to go look and see where the patterns are. You're going to put out a big whiteboard if you're a prosecutor and kind of go, well, this guy over here is part of this cartel and this drug dealer, but he met this guy on Tuesday. And you try to connect the dots, you see what's happening, but we'll see what happens.
Chip, I know I have to ask you about the politics in Texas, but before I get to that, you mentioned being a Jeffersonian.
Yeah.
Pay a lot of attention to the great Commonwealth of Virginia. Today, as we are talking, they are voting on one of the most ludicrous, insane gerrymanders I have ever seen in my life. I don't know if you realize this, but if this gerrymander goes through, you could have 5 members who are all within 30 minutes driving distance from the RV Navy Country Club, who are representing 2/3 of the state.
Yeah.
What do you think the message will be coming out of this election? What do you think the fact that they have tried to build this up to such a degree on the national scale on the Democratic side, do we have any hope of holding on to Virginia, or is the Old Dominion going to go blue?
Well, I don't know. I mean, look, I was been watching some of the news reports today suggesting there's pretty high turnout in the rural communities, which you would expect, and people being offended that they want to. It's like, what every 5 districts are going to have some sliver out of Arlington and Alexandria. It's like, the communist republic of Northern Virginia. It's just absurd. I mean,
hey, you're talking about Karen, my neighbor.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about like a million Karens.
Couple of Northern Virginians.
That's the
right
actual
here.
problem. It's like literally like a million Karens will then decide what the entire Commonwealth of Virginia is doing. And there are so many great, solid, conservative Virginians, and I'm a proud Texan by both heritage but in terms of where I live today. But as you know, I went to high school, went to University of Virginia. I remind you, Sam Houston went from Virginia, went to Texas. I don't clear all that up. I'm a Texan. But look, Virginia has a rich history, a rich heritage. It's a freaking cradle of our republic.
Mother of president.
And you're sitting here looking at this going, are you out of your mind? And by the way, I worked with Abigail when I was here. We did a stock trading bill and other stuff. And look, I always knew she was, very liberal. She's gone like straight Marxist leftist, like just hasn't batted an eye. And this is the future of our nation. I just want everybody to understand. This is the future of the United States if we don't stand up right now and stop that march.
So part of that is standing up against some of the Marxist extremism that we're seeing coming out of particularly New York and California.
Right.
You have taken a stand most recently against, I mean, you're calling it the Mamdani.
Yeah.
Tell us what this is meant to accomplish.
Yeah, like people are like, "Oh, what are you doing? This is crazy." But remember that under our current law, we have set up a structure where you can reject people coming into the United States if they're communists, they're affiliated with the Communist Party, and you can remove them and you can denaturalize them. Now, I just think we ought to expand that, and there's nothing wrong with it. People say, "Well, somehow that's anti-American, anti-First Amendment." It's like, are you out of your mind? We're a sovereign nation. We can choose who comes here. We can choose who we naturalize. and we ought to know who you are. And if you're coming here and you're advancing Marxist, communist, socialist, Islamist policies and philosophy that undermine our entire society and Western civilization, why should you be here? Like, we're a nation. I mean, this is where I agree very much with J.D. Vance. We're a nation of immigrants. It's like, we're a nation of laws. We're a nation of people who have a common bond and a common culture and heritage. And yes, we've had a melting pot when people wanted to come here and melt into it. But when you come here and want to destroy it and tip it over, then I don't want you here. Yeah. And I don't mind saying it. I don't understand why that's such a controversial topic for some. So some people saying, that's unconstitutional. No, it's not. Literally, the Supreme Court upheld it in 1952.
In what I saw in America, he writes about how ambitious and patriotic it is to have, as part of the questions before you come into America, are you a communist? Right. Are you an anarchist?
Right, exactly.
It's just like, it is not unconstitutional. Ask that question and make a determination based on your answer.
Of course. And in fact, in 1952, the United States Supreme Court upheld that position. I believe that we ought to expand it. And I think Islamist is a very critical question to understand who you are. If you want to come here and you want to carry out the political ideology of Islam, which it is a political ideology, to transform the West, waging jihad, to use the language of the Muslim Brotherhood's memorandum from 1991, and everything since, and what CARE stands for, and what the vast majority of imams talking about it want to do, then we shouldn't have those people coming to the United States. That's what I believe.
So you just mentioned CARE, and that's what I wanted to actually ask you next, which is we've seen in Florida, Governor DeSantis.
You're a big fan of me, CARE.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Us as well. This is the Council on American Islamic Relations. They're essentially a terrorist proxy, and all sorts of Google them, read what we've covered them on the Daily Wire. Plenty of good stuff there. But I mean, Texas has, I would say, probably next to Florida, one of the biggest issues with these sort of Islamist elements coming in, creating whole cities, expanding from, their Islamic centers and taking over towns. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? And what, if anything, are you doing here in Washington to fight that problem in Texas and around the country?
Yeah, I mean, in order, I've had legislation to vet people for adherence to Sharia law, legislation to take the tax status away from CARE, legislation to designate CARE as a terrorist organization, and then now this bill, the Mamdani Act, to say that if you're an adherent to Islamism and socialism and communism, that you can be removed. So these are all things that are, I think, relevant to the question. But what's happening in Texas is that I think the mixture of all of it coming together at once. You've got weak immigration policies. We've imported 5 billion people from majority Muslim countries since 9/11, which is asinine. And what society that wants to keep itself does that? I asked a question earlier on an interview. Said, like, everyone is all up in arms about TSA. It's like, oh my God, TSA may not funded, and we're having to backdoor fund them with the ICE funding and all that. We wouldn't even need TSA if it weren't for Islam. Like, we literally wouldn't. Like, why do we even have it? Like literally the 20 most known terrorist organizations in the world are all Islamic. And we all act like there's not a correlation. Yeah. And it's like, of course there is. So why don't we just recognize that and deal with it instead of importing people? In Texas, we've been, in the name of Chamber of Commerce and business, and we got to have all these people. It's like, really? Now you're seeing what's happened. 330 mosques, Epic City. And by the way, a lot of politicians in Texas, including my opponent for Attorney General, they push legislation in the name of property rights and religious liberty. And they do that, and guess what? They grease the skids for things like Epic City. They grease the skids for prayer rooms for people who want to point to Mecca on their prayer mats in schools, because we're assuming that we can somehow put the 10 Commandments on the walls and everything's going to be all Judeo-Christian. Yeah. But no, it's not. We're actually setting the stage for the Islamists to come in and destroy us, because we all sit around thinking we're secular and pretending that we're somehow going to advance our Judeo-Christian principles when we're really a secular society, and we're not acknowledging that we ought to be a Christian society.
James Tallarico has set the new record for fundraising in this first quarter. He is clearly going to be somebody who inspires an absolute flood of national Democrat money into Texas that's going to try to do the dream that they've always had.
Yeah, turning Beto to, right.
Okay. How likely is that to actually happen?
Well, first of all, Tallarico is not Beto. Beto kind of caught people by surprise, where he could kind of claim to be a moderate, had a voting record that wasn't as deep. Tallarico has said and done a lot of crazy stuff, and he's been very public about it. And we can highlight those issues. I mean, he talks about God being non-binary, whatever the hell. It's just crazy stuff that he said. And so, I think that's all going to be exposed. I think whatever happens in the Senate primary, Republicans are going to show up against Tallarico. Now, look, it's a real issue when you've got that much money. I mean, I know I'm running against somebody self-funding who spent $18 million in a primary. When you're running against money, it's real, but you have to get your message to the people directly. And look, Republicans have to show up, and I'll give credit to Abbott, Patrick, and others. They're highlighting that. They're saying, look, Texans, don't take this for granted. We have to show up. And by the way, we need a national wave by leading. We need the Republicans in Congress and in the House and the Senate to deliver and work alongside the president to deliver. You know, I was just standing on the floor and I was talking about how much I think the American people are happy about the border is secure. Our enlistments are high in the military. We're reestablishing our presence in the Western Hemisphere, challenging the cartels, removing bad actors with ICE. But we're also on our heels. We're letting Democrats control the narrative by defunding ICE and Border Patrol. And we're going around going, well, I guess we'll try to fund it through reconciliation. And I guess we should just take it to them. And by the way, the Save America Act and everything else, we need to be on offense. But bottom line is we're not going to win if we're not on offense. If we're on defense, we lose. In Texas, I want to go on offense. And you know, if I'm the nominee in a month, which I expect to be,
you're going to do as AG?
I mean, the very first thing I'm going to do is open up all of the books of the nonprofits and the NGOs. There's like 500 or 600 of them that are advancing the Marxist agenda with the DAs and the judges that are putting criminals on our streets, that are advancing the Islamist agenda, that are advancing open borders agenda, everything from Catholic charities to Protestant groups to leftist organizations. They're all at war with Texas, and the AG has an enormous amount of power working with the comptroller and everybody else in the state. Open up all those books and look at them. When they're tied to CARE, when they're tied to terrorist organizations, when they're tied to Antifa, take their charter, take their money, cut the head off the snake, stop the funding, stop allowing people to be at war with your state. Like, okay, let's go win a kinetic war against Iran. Fine. But you're going to lose the war at home if you don't acknowledge the war exists. You can't win a war that you don't acknowledge exists. So as Attorney General, I will acknowledge that war, open up the books, and I will immediately get on offense. And then take things like Plyler v. Doe, take it to the Supreme Court. Why are we funding the education of illegal alien children? Yep. Why are we doing, continuing to accept the premise that was bestowed upon us by leftists on the Supreme Court? So there's a lot of things we can do to go on offense, and also be vigilant about the border. We're not going to have Donald Trump and Homan and Miller and others in perpetuity. So Texas is going to have to grab that mantle, declare an invasion, and do what we need to do to secure the border.
I think that raises a huge point. I was actually just saying this earlier, where someone asked me, what issue do you think has become sort of like a sleeper? And I said, immigration. It's sort of receded to the background in a way. People are, and again, it's because of the success
taking it for granted.
This administration has had. But it's not an if, but a when that we will have another Democratic president. And so, what sort of things are you and your colleagues here on the Hill working to do to sort of, if not codify the president's executive orders, but make it? How can we make it impossible for the future Democratic president to bring us back where we were?
Yeah, pass H.R. 2, pass the actual codification of the things the president's doing, and we're not doing that right now. With all due respect, that's my message to Republicans. If you want to get your ass kicked in November, keep doing what you're doing, which is nothing. And, look, and by the way, I'll say that for the last 50 months, we've done a lot of good things. The Lake and Riley Act. You know what was good about that? The Sue Act. Nobody talks about that, but Dan Bishop and I got that stuck in that bill because I was on Rules Committee. I said, we're not going to move that bill unless we put something good in it. That bill says states can sue the federal government. We have standing to go sue them if they leave our borders exposed. That is a massive win for us. We need more stuff like that. We need H.R. 2 so we can codify what the president's doing, stop all the abuses of parole, stop all the abuses of asylum, stop all the catch and release policies, force them to secure the border. We ought to go on offense on those things. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck. And we're going to have to be, as the state of Texas, doing the job the federal government won't do. Thankfully, we have the Sue Act to do it, but we shouldn't have to be put in that position if we do our job here now.
There we go. Well, we'll leave it there. Congressman Chip Roy, thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Tim.
Good luck with everything.
Appreciate it.
If you're tuning in at home, if you're watching on the app, thank you as always for joining us. We appreciate you. And if you've wandered in on YouTube, welcome to the Wired and Live family. We do this every day, not always in such a swanky locale, but we are here every day. And so if you want to take a minute, download the app, sign up on DailyWire.com. It's free. Get access to a lot of incredible content. And of course, it can be not free if you want to pay, if you want to subscribe. I encourage it. A lot of great subscribers, only benefits. But one right now, a benefit for everybody, whether you're subscribing or not. We are joined by Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett. Congressman, great to see you as always.
Brother, it is a pleasure, and I really appreciate it.
So my favorite thing about this is that you're not a member of the Republican Study Committee, but you always turn up at these things.
Well, actually, I joined. They poor mouthed me, and they got a great lunch, but I never can make the dadgum lunch. So August Pfluger's a good guy. Served our country. He's third baseman, first string. I'm third string first baseman. And I always hate it in the rotation where he has to throw the ball to first base because he throws it like on a dadgum rocket ship. And he's just, And you'd think that's what you want. I want them old guys that throw it and just kind of bounces to me, and I can kind of get to it. But
you might want to play for the
Democrats.
Democrats.
Sex sells, as you have told me. I have a very attractive face, and I don't want to damage that.
Got to protect the moneymaker.
That's right.
So, how old is that Carhartt?
I don't know. This one, it's not that old because it's Velcro. The older ones, I believe, had the snaps.
Yeah, they had the snap.
And this isn't like my standby. I woke up this morning. I was in Knoxville. I had to do some stuff for somebody on Monday night, and it was 37 degrees. And my deal on being I'm a semi-exotic model. And when it's 60 or below, I wear the Carhartt. But above that, I'm under contractual agreement that I can't wear it above.
Where the cutoff was.
Yeah. And but full exotic model, it's a union deal, and it brings in the Teamsters and the whole deal.
Do you switch to a vest when it goes above 60?
No, I've got a vest. Somebody gave me one. People always, they give me. I swear, if Carhartt made a thong, I bet somebody would give me a Carhartt thong. People give me everything Carhartt, and I just like the jacket. I'm not trying to be a fashion.
The vest
diva.
is the DC uniform in the spring. That's what everyone. I mean, not now. It's a little Arctic today.
I see a couple of these guys. Yeah, Stubing and the rest of them. Stubby and a couple of them wear vests and stuff. They look good at it. I'm pretty much white trash.
What is the average rate of death for scientists in America?
Yeah, that's a great question. If imagine we had 11 members of the media disappear or die unexpectedly. 11 rabbis, 11 used car salesmen. For goodness sakes. What in the world? And what is going on with all these folks? So they have one or two similarities, and you all know what they are, and it's no secret. Here's my theory on it. Okay, can I throw out a theory?
Please.
Yes.
Say you're mobbed up, right? And your family, not your mob family, but your biological family owns a very high-end restaurant, and your chef at the top, who you've invested a lot of money in, probably sending to, CIA, Culinary Institute of America, but you think he might be slipping out some of your secret family recipes to some of your competitors. So you got a lot invested in him. You're probably not going to kill him. You might knock off a few busboys or rough them up, just kind of send that dadgum message. I think a message, not that these people are busboys, but there's some people right now that are very nervous.
That is the most interesting culinary comparison.
Yes, sir. It came to me one time. I think I was on Fox, and I just threw it out there, and I thought,
You're insinuating that it's the government that's...
Government is crooked as a dog's leg, dude, and I'm not suicidal. If y'all find me tomorrow and I got 13 bullet holes in the back of my head, I did not commit suicide. But this government is corrupt. Everybody knows it. And it's just at this level, you've got some of these guys that walk around here, and they don't get it. All they care about is they're gonna retire and have a nice retirement, and they're not gonna rock the boat. They don't care if they're in the majority or the minority, just as long as they're in a comfortable district and they go cut a few ribbons and take credit for stuff they never had anything to do with, and get along with the good old boys, and we don't just wreck the economy, which we're fixing to do. And they're complacent in that role. They would love it nothing better to be in the minority, and the majority would call them while they're out on the golf course and say, "Hey, we're getting ready to vote. Come on in. We got a few crumbs for you."
Who's wrecking the economy?
We are. Congress.
But specifically, we.
Oh, well, military, everything else. I mean, the Democrats get in charge, and they spend it on woke programs all over the world. We get in charge. We spend it on our military expenditures. Far exceed the next five.
Our military expenditures are less than 10% of our expenditures.
Well, and then our social programs and everything. We're $40 trillion in debt, dude.
You've been in Congress how long?
Do what?
You've been in Congress since what?
8 years.
Okay, 8 years. How many bills have you passed?
I probably passed. How many bills have I passed? 8 or 9, I don't know. Not many. It's tough. I was always still.
My question
for instance,
to you is,
I have a bill to defund the Taliban. We send them $40 million a week. President Trump even talked about it. I have the memo from the State Department, and I can't get I can't get the Senate to move on it.
I got to ask you though. You've been here for 8 years. You talk about, the fact that we're ruining our economy, that we're spending too much on these things. Why aren't you able to find the path to passing the Tim Burchett Solve the Problem Act here?
Because this group is compromised. They don't want to rock the boat. Again, they just want to get along. I'm chairman of the Doge. I think they sent me there to die. They're not there to fix anything. And every time I propose something, for instance, the Taliban bill, I have a a memo from the State Department. It was marked classified. Now it's unclassified. It says during the Biden administration alone, close to $5 billion was shipped over there of your money. And that's these NGOs. Well, I wrote the president months ago.
Aren't
and, they did away with
not grow heroin or something?
Do what?
Opium.
Opium?
No, we send them money through the NGOs. It goes through, they have 3 banks. They're controlled by the Taliban. They collect on the money coming and going.
But here's my fundamental question. Why even bother to have a good person like yourself in Congress?
I don't know, just get along?
If it's just there's no point.
Because I'm idealistic and I refuse to give up on our country. My dad fought and killed people for it. My mama lost her brother fighting the Nazis. Daddy fought the Japanese. I think it's worth fighting for. But some days it's very futile. And I lay awake at night thinking about that very question.
So
literally.
How does that change?
Do what?
How does that change?
More people get elected. More than 12% of the population votes. 40% of the evangelical Christians don't vote. 30% of gun owners don't vote. I'm a member of both of those groups. I just choose to vote. And they'll be the first ones to call and raise hell with you about an issue. And then you check their voter registration. They don't do anything. We don't. Everybody's just complacent. And it just continues. It feeds it. And we're that boiling frog. You throw a frog in a pot of water, it'll swim around there, but you just gradually turn the Bunsen burner up, and that's what we do. More rules, more regulation. We're in control. I remembered I was walking out behind AOC and Maxine Waters. I think it was him, or it might have been Omar. I can't remember. Anyways, one of the very liberal group of Democrats. It was right when COVID was hitting, and they said, I'll just send everybody $1,000 and call it a day, and then send everybody home. And I thought, that's the craziest thing I'd ever heard. But looking back, I wish we'd just done that and not done all the other nonsense. Yeah, but that is the mentality.
You do that, and then
I know
you got to renew the $1,000.
Oh, I know. I wouldn't have done it
after that, and then you can't take away the $1,000.
I know you can't claw it back. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I think one thing that I think you're absolutely right that we got to get more of the right kind of folks running for office and getting involved in politics is something that obviously as the Daily Wire, we're here in DC, but we also we're a Nashville based outlet, as we're back in your home state. So I think everyone if you heard the congressman here take a page out of his book and maybe come to Washington and make a difference.
God, do not sentence them to that. No,
well, Congressman, we know you have to go, but thank you so much. We really
appreciate the tough question. And I'm a flagrant fence swinger. I'm swinging for the fence every day, and I do worry about our country. I do. Just the craziness of the nature of this place up here is just. The one surprise I had was, brother, that I'm not surprised. My wife says it's like junior high school with a big checkbook.
An absolute nightmare. Well, Congressman, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We hope to see you soon.
Very nice.
If you're listening, if you're watching at home, again, that was Congressman Tim Burchett from our neck of the woods in Tennessee. We got some more folks coming. In the meantime, though, I do just want to remind everybody that you can watch this. Again, some of you are watching on YouTube. Some are watching on Daily Wire or the Daily Wire Plus app. If you register, like I mentioned before, you can send in some questions. Questions for me, questions for Ben, questions for our guests, questions for a little bit. We're going to be joined by our own Isabel Brown, host of the Isabel Brown Show. So if you're a registered Daily Wire user, get those questions in. And if you're not, register and, put Ben here in the hot seat. Wouldn't you like that, Ben? Wouldn't that be great?
Oh, gosh. No, I didn't sign up for that.
That's right. The interviewer becomes the interviewee.
So I actually, here's the thing that's, interesting to me about this. These folks are all, one way or the other, they're headed for a position, I think, Tim, that is going to be essentially powerless after November.
Republicans.
They are not going to be in a position to affect any kind of legislation. They're going to be up against it when it comes to Democratic holds on committees that are going to engage in what they will describe as oversight, but is really just a different form of lawfare against the Trump agenda when it comes to the administration and virtually every department. And I just don't know, whether they're going to be able to find their footing in time. We've seen the latest, scores when it comes to expectations people have. But as you just were saying in both of those interviews, there's a certain effect that happens when we have an immigration policy that's actually working. under President Trump, when you have a international footing that looks the way that it is, when you're targeting different people around the world who are trying to kill Americans. All that stuff kind of goes into the basket of stuff that voters wanted, they asked for, but now they seem to be basically assuming is going to continue to be the case regardless of who's in charge. I don't think that there's anybody really within the Republican conference who has been able to vocalize an argument that's going to convince voters that they really could lose all of that and lose it very quickly if Democrats get back in charge.
Well, one thing that I'm worried about and have sort of been paying a lot of attention to is, look, obviously in midterm election years after, the incumbent president's party always loses seats. That's the conventional wisdom, especially when it's, the first term, or, which in this case sort of, it's not obviously the president's first term, but functionally it is because it's not consecutive. So that's, this is of course the conventional wisdom, but it seems to me that Republicans are almost backing themselves into a corner by nationalizing these midterms more so than usual, right? So generally, right, the party wants to allow lawmakers to run away from the president or away from the party if it helps, right? Because all that matters ultimately is picking up the districts. This is something we talk a lot about, the Trump effect, right? When Trump's not on the ballot, people don't turn out. But I feel like we're seeing a kind of new expression of that, which is that because a lot of these at-risk Republicans they just have to sort of beat the drum, the big, beautiful bill, all the good things that the president's doing. I feel like a lot of them are going to shoot themselves in the foot by, again, maybe it's not even exactly about running away from Trump, but it's about having to focus on the national talking points instead of their actual races. I feel like that's giving their primary challengers, their Democratic opponents, a big leg up.
Well, I mean, the problem, I think, for Republicans is that if you look at the last 6 months of the president's leadership, you could say, what is he focused on? He's focused on Iran. He's focused on Venezuela. He's focused on a lot of things other than what America's kitchen tables are talking about in terms of their priorities. And you can make a strong argument that what he's doing is in America's interest, but I certainly don't see him as occupying a position right now of being able to lead this party into this midterm, because he's maybe more mindful of his legacy. He's maybe more mindful of kind of putting America as a country in the position that he'd like them to be going forward after he's out of office. Is this a situation where that type of legacy building, worthwhile foreign policy behavior is effectively going to be punished by the voters because he's not been talking about or working on the thing that they actually are prioritizing? Yeah,
well, and I'm interested, I think there's an argument to be made that it's a worthy sacrifice, right? I mean, if you want to be the foreign policy president, and if I imagine this president would say, right, I seized the moment, someone needed to act in Venezuela, someone needed to take out the Ayatollah, someone needed to do what I've done. Mm-hmm. But the way that we know, I mean, majorities are slippery things. Ours is already narrow. Republicans is already narrow. I mean, do you think that it was a miscalculation? Do you think that 10 years from now, are we going to be sitting here saying, man, Trump really should have just focused on winning those midterms? Look what's happened. Or are the benefits of the foreign policy actions going to outweigh a 2026 electoral loss?
I think it's a long-term, short-term sort of situation. And unfortunately, I think the penalty for being focused on the long term could be short-term losses for him. And it's going to be something that I think Republicans will probably be surprised by. We've seen estimates coming out of a number of the different universities that look at this in the long term, that analyze voter behavior and use many more inputs than just the typical, your average kind of poll that's a survey of, a certain number of people across the country. The truth is that when you look at those, they're all really bad. They all look like either 20 to 30 seat majorities for the Democrats. And that's something that I think Republican voters, I just don't think they've factored it in. And maybe that changes. Maybe there's something that changes it or highlights it in the next couple of months that, has some dramatic effect where Democrats are only able to take the House by 10 seats or something like that. But that's basically their best situation.
But this makes, and we were talking earlier about the redistricting measure on the ballot in Virginia, where we both live. And that makes that even more frightening, right? If these are the pickups that Democrats are going to get without fully tilting the scales. If this is, and again, I've been stressing to people, telling them to vote no. It's not. We are in the middle of the middle, right? This isn't the end of the beginning of the end, but it's the end of the beginning, or whatever Clinton said. Yeah. This is the middle of the middle, right? No matter what happens, no one. If Virginia, if the Democrats succeed, every other blue state legislature is going to try something like this. And if they fail, they're going to say, well, true Democratic redistricting has never been tried. Let's go vindicate Abby Spanberger. So, I mean that when you think about it that way, I mean, it's Democrats are they're starting on second and they're about to steal third. And that's.
Yeah, I don't know what that looks like in terms of a national phenomenon, but I certainly know that it's not going to be good for any kind of competition. We have a question from the audience here that I'll leave up to you to answer.
Yes. All right. So just a reminder, you can ask your pertinent questions like this one from Gregory W. Where is Cabot? When is Cabot? How is Cabot? With 3 exclamation points. Or question marks. Who is Cabot? Our dear Cabot Phillips was supposed to be here. He is just a little under the weather. Stuck in Nashville. Maybe he's been detained. Maybe he had knowledge that could lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton. Who's to say? No, Cabot's just, we wish him well. Cabot, if you're watching, I hope you're not watching. I hope you're watching The Price is Right or something more soothing. But if you're watching, buddy, feel better. And, thanks again to the one and only Ben Domenech for filling in on short notice.
Yes.
But, please send us your non-Cabot related, questions whenever you can. Let's talk a little bit more about Virginia. We were just talking about the redistricting. Yep. You've been a Virginian much longer than I have. Your whole life? You're a native?
My family moved up when I was 10.
So more or less. We'll grandfather you in. What's a lot of news? I mean, Spanberger in the governor's office. Democrats have control of both sides of the state house. Our attorney general has called for the murder of his political opponents, and our former Democrat lieutenant governor just murdered his wife and killed himself. What is going on with Virginia Democrats?
It's a really messed up situation, Tim, and I don't know if people truly understand it, in part because I think the national media played into this idea that was very true of sort of the way that they wanted to frame the story, but a complete falsehood when it came to reality. The way that they wanted to frame the story was there's this radical in New York City named Zohran Mamdani who is on the fringes of the Democratic Party. He's only becoming the nominee because of the terrible candidates who were put up. Corrupt Eric Adams and, completely compromised Andrew Cuomo and all the other things that were going on in that situation. And instead, in New Jersey and in Virginia, we've got these moderate ladies who are totally nice and completely, friendly. They'll bring all of the orange slices to the soccer game and the like. That is not true at all. And Abigail Spanberger has gone far left very quickly at the behest of Louise Lucas and the other people who actually run things in Richmond. Her big compromise proposal with the 10-1 map that was put forward by Democrats in Richmond was a 9-2 map. Right. So it's essentially you're splitting hairs.
It's almost like the former CIA covert operative who ran as a moderate and now is a liberal. It's almost like she was a sleeper.
I'm really down on these ex-CIA ladies that the Democrats keep putting forward. Michigan too, by the way.
Let's bring on someone who, to the best of my knowledge, has never been a CIA sleeper agent. Florida Congressman Randy Fine.
No, but I have watched a number of TV shows about them.
That's
so
right.
I can talk about that.
Same thing. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. It's really always a pleasure.
Thank you.
So let's start with what I think a lot of it's certainly on my mind when I saw you walk in, which is you've never been shy. You've never shied away from your views or from confronting your opponents, but you have in recent months gotten even more fun on social media. What?
That's one way to put it.
What's going on? Tell us a little bit about that.
I worry at night about the survival of America. And I worry because people are not willing to address the threat that is before us, that they want to stick their head in the sand and live in a world of sunshine, rainbows, pixie dust, and unicorns. And to some degree, what I'm trying to do is shock people into realizing what we're up against, that things are bad. And you guys just talked about it. Democrats run as mom and apple pie, and then they come and they govern as Attila the Hun. I mean, we are in a terrible situation, and all I'm doing is try to bring attention to what we're up against.
I like it. There's the two graphics. There's a lot of graphics, but the two that I think are in most frequent rotation is deport and resign. Resign for your colleagues and deport whenever.
And one of them just did. I don't know. One of them just did.
I think you should talk about that as breaking news. No, we've had a resignation. She insists that she's innocent.
Yes, hold on. I want.
By the way, did you read it? You should read it because it doesn't even make any sense.
Yes.
I will fight for my constituents. I am resigning. It is the most bizarre.
This is Florida Congresswoman Sheila Cherfilis McCormick. You're a member of
By the way, the actual way that you should resign is always just peace out.
So she's been accused of embezzling, I believe, $5 million or funneling $5 million.
No. The first charge is she stole $5 million of FEMA funds.
FEMA money, and then
after she stole the $5 million of FEMA funds, she then took that money and then put it in her campaign.
That's right.
And what clearly became obvious to her is, I presume, is even the Democrats were gonna suggest she needed to be expelled.
Well, and it's a hot season for bipartisan or resignation. So
clearly, it's the only thing we seem to be able to agree on right now. But there are bad people up here. Now, keep in mind, it's 3 out of 435, so that is less than 1%. But it is a problem. There are too many people. I came here because I'm afraid for the country, and I desperately want to help save it. Unfortunately, I think a lot of other people's motives are not as pure.
I want to ask you about the possibilities that are in front of Republicans when it comes to the outcome in November. We've seen the numbers that are coming out of the places that you can have faith in, not just the snapshot polls, not just the surveys that come across just trying to get headlines, that Republicans could be headed to a 20 to 30 seat Democrat majority after this November. What do you do, and what do your fellow members do to change this conversation, and to do so in a way that, even if you can't hold it, doesn't turn this into the kind of thing that could last for years and years of Republicans trying to climb out of a pit?
Well, I think we need to give our voters a reason to go and vote. And that takes two parts. Number one, we need to deliver on the things they demanded of us, like the Save America Act. We told people voter ID is important. We need to deliver on that. And if we don't, voters are going to say, well, why should we send them back? The second thing we need to do is we need to stop governing like Democrats. We don't need to vote for infinity, illegal Haitian immigration with welfare forever. We shouldn't do that. But the other thing we need to do is, I believe this election...
Do you think Congressman Salazar could potentially cost you the majority?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said, do you think Congressman Salazar and others who are on that bill could potentially cost you the majority?
I don't think it's helpful. I don't think it's helpful when Republicans start working with the squad. And the person who brought that discharge petition was a member of the squad. I came here to fight the squad, not to work with the squad. But the other thing is, this election will come down to whose voters are more motivated to vote. Right now, and I saw this in my special election, Democrats will crawl over broken glass with acid raining down on them to vote because they hate Donald Trump and they're mad that we don't have open borders anymore. We need to get our voters motivated by talking about the three things I think the base is very mad about: Somali pirates, Muslim terrorists, and illegal immigrants. And we need to say that's all Democrats care about. Somali pirates, they're not bothered by $9 billion being stolen in Minneapolis, given to people who we gave the generous gift of being able to come to America to. We need to talk about that a lot more. We need to stop talking about amnesty for anyone. We need to deport every single illegal immigrant. I don't care if you've been here 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 years, or 5 decades. If you came here illegally, you got to go home. You want dignity, get it in your own country. And then the last thing is, people are scared about the Islamification of America. And that's the number one issue I don't think we're talking about, that I hear when I'm doing town halls and meeting people. People are scared by what they see in New York, because make no mistake, they are trying to do in America what they have done in Western Europe. And we need to get people focused on that.
All hot button issues. And that brings me to one more question, and then we're going to let you go.
All right.
So we're sponsored today on our broadcast by Kalshi. Kalshi has all sorts of fun markets for the White House Correspondents' Dinner this weekend. So I want to ask you before you go, what do you think the president will mention in his Correspondents' Dinner speech? One topic. Just one.
Well, I think
place your bet.
What do you think the president won't mention?
I know. That's why you got to pick one.
Mine would be Iran.
Not a bet, not a contract. That's right.
What?
That's right.
Iran.
Iran.
We'll talk about Iran.
All right.
Sure we'll talk about Iran.
There we go. Well, we'll see if that happens.
I was hoping he was going to come in and just do the Tommy Boy thing of having a bunch of road flares wrapped around him and just
look. The president is very entertaining. They don't need to pay for a speaker. They're going to have him.
Congressman Fine, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
Excited for the White House Correspondents' Dinner this year.
Are you?
Well, I mean, I don't have to go, so I'm excited to see what happens. I mean, the return of Trump to the grand stage is something to behold.
Are you going to comment on the fact that the same year he doesn't go to CPAC is the same year that he goes to the White House Correspondents' Dinner?
Are you accusing our president of becoming mainstream, of selling out, Ben? Of becoming
I'm just saying,
Beltway elite?
I mean, it just it's a little interesting. It says something.
It is a little interesting. We're joined now by Missouri Congressman Eric Burleson. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Why don't we let's make this like a snake draft. Let's start with our last question there. What's one topic that you think the president is going to speak about in his White House Correspondents' Address? And I encourage you to, this is a Kalshi market, a contract. Go off the beaten path. Obviously, he's going to talk about Iran. What's a sleeper pick?
UFOs.
Boom. There we go. I love that.
Already we're leaning into it.
All right. Well, Should we talk a little about UFOs?
Sounds good.
What's going on, Congressman? What can you tell us that we don't already know?
I'm on the Oversight Committee. We've been looking into this for quite some time. I think that to kind of ground it and base it in reality, and I love Ben Shapiro's comments on this, because I think he and I kind of view this the same, which is like let's like stick to the facts and let's be reality focused. And what I think that we can definitively say is that there's some weird things flying over our skies that we don't know what they are. So we definitively have enough video evidence. We have enough credible people that have been flying it, whether it was David Fravor flying in an F-18, intercepting these objects, getting them on camera, getting them on radar, or the recent events that I've been briefed on that have happened over our military bases. There's some weird things that are, I wouldn't call them flying. They are operating above our airspace.
All right, then. I am going to just have to ask some of the, I think, skeptical questions that people normally have about this. Why do we not think that they're foreign-backed entities?
No, they very well could be. In fact, that's probably the most prevailing theory, is that the concerning part about that is that if it is China or Russia, that they have some breakaway technology that we're not aware of.
So there's been a theory that I've seen floated many times about some of the restrictions that were put in place on drone technology, decades ago, that prevented America from producing drones that could go above certain heights. And that's obviously shifted over time, but it's also one that some people who are within the industry cite as being indicative of why the market for these types of drones ended up so heavily in China. How much is that true?
I have not looked into that specifically, and you're talking about drones that are using conventional,
yes,
propellers, movement of air, aerodynamic things. What I'm talking about is not that.
Sure, but my point is that, like, if you have industries that are occupied in other nations, that are so far ahead, that have had decades worth of investment in technology and advancement,
research,
that stuff can look pretty freaking alien to somebody who doesn't know, how they ended up at that point.
Right. Yeah, it could be. They could have. You're right. There's been a lot of investment, a lot of manufacturing that's done in China. Nearly most of the drones that are made are coming out of China. So
was it?
I want to. Sorry.
No, finish.
So I want to ask you a question about the international side of this. The drone program in Taiwan is essentially 18 months old. That's when they had the first really quality drones come off the line. They're way behind, and this is, a situation where we understand any kind of conflict that happens with the Chinese government would necessitate enormous use of drones, especially after the lessons that we've taken away from Ukraine, from Iran, et cetera. The problem is they spend a lot of time asking you guys for money for tanks and for jets that the Chinese will shoot out of the air pretty easily, I think. What can we do to make sure that Taiwan has the ability to defend itself, just given the fact that they occupy such a position of importance within the chips market and everything else that we care so much about here in the West now?
Yeah, I think you answered it. I think it is drone. It's drones. This is the future of warfare. I've seen one of the interesting contractors, for example, that has some drones are these hybrid floating devices that then can take flight and when necessary. It's almost like a movable landmine. But I mean, there's all kinds of things that are people are thinking about this potential war. And the industry, I know, in the United States and others are moving in that direction to try to get prepared for it.
We've obviously, the reason we're talking about UFOs and these drones is that in the past couple of years, members of Congress have started, pushing for these things to be declassified, talking about it, and obviously the American people eat this up. And on the one hand, it is great to see a little bit of transparency on what's maybe one of the most opaque issues of all time. But having this conversation, I wonder, are you guys maybe messaging it wrong? Like, should you all in Congress be using this opportunity to warn the American people about the growing technology gap between us and our adversaries? Like, should the line be, you better hope that these are aliens, because if they're actually Chinese drones, we're in real trouble. Like, at least maybe the aliens will vote Republican, right? Like, we don't know. Right. Democrats will do their best. But I mean,
a lot of George W. Bush era Republicans thought that way too.
I mean, should we be talking less about UFOs and using this to pivot?
I think so. I mean, look, I think that the most logical thing, the most probable scenario is that it is foreign, or actually I would say it's probably more probable that what we're seeing is there's layers of our military industrial contractors. You have FFRDCs, which are federally funded research and development centers, and they will funnel money and these are entities like Rand Corporation, MITRE Group, Aerospace Corporation. Like, there's a lot of these. They're like a quasi entity, but usually holds a lot of the secrets as to where the money is actually being appropriated. And then that money is then partitioned into different contractors. So contractors are working on things. They have no idea what the ultimate component is. And I think somewhere in there within our military contractors and our FFRDCs is probably the answer. And it's probably U.S. technology that's being currently experimented on. That's what I hope it is. That's what my hope is. But to your point, we better hope that it's not China.
I love whenever the Rand Corporation comes up. That's it's.
Well, I completely agree with you. Obviously, I would really hope that it would be us doing weird stuff as opposed to somebody else. What is the normal burn rate for scientists with interest in the UFO space?
What do you mean, the normal burn rate? What do you mean?
Like, just how many of them disappear randomly?
Yeah. 11 deaths in a 3-month span.
I don't know what the death rate is for.
I don't know. I put it into Grok. I asked Grok, what's the probability that there's no connection? What's the probability that there's one connection? And it was kind of interesting. Grok said that, it's highly probable that for all 11 scientists, there's no one connection. That's highly probable, or highly improbable that there's a connection that strings all of them together. But there's probably a connection with at least one, or like within a couple of them. And I think the ones that I'm keyed in on are the ones that were people working, whether they were working at Los Alamos Labs or they were working for Wright-Patterson Research Group for the Air Force. They were all being funded by grants and directed by General McCasland, who went missing himself. So he goes missing, and basically 4 other people that are receiving funds from his and direction from him go walk out their front door, leave their phones behind, all in a very similar pattern. That's something that should be investigated.
I know you have to go, but I have to ask you, how many members of Congress typically use Grok as a research tool in lieu of your legislative aides?
The Congressional Research Service.
I mean, I don't. I'm
Grok's
sure
better than CRS.
Many,
Come on.
But I would be really shocked because I actually have installed OpenClaw on my computer, and am experimenting with OpenClaw. Are you guys familiar with that?
Well, yeah.
So I've got it up and working. My agents, I named them all after characters from Star Trek Next Generation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So wait a minute.
So I can
What's your hierarchy?
So I've got Picard, right?
Okay, of course.
And he is like the lead guy I talk to on my Telegram. And then I have Data, Riker, Deanna,
and they
Worf.
do they resemble those characters in their
They do. They take on the personalities of those characters. I actually had to tell my AI.
Is Riker always
agent,
trying to hit on the other ones? Or?
Riker is pretty. He has a lot of dry humor.
Okay.
And I like that I like that. But what I've had to tell them, hey, tone it down on the Star Trek lingo. We're getting work done here. Like I really, at the end of the day, I want you to do real work.
I would love to hear your Picard entities analysis of legislation on a regular basis. That would be a lot of fun.
Maybe we'll have to have you back, and we can do again. Maybe we'll put it behind the paywall. Another incentive to register. If you're a Trekkie watching at home right now,
we can watch.
Come register. We'll have Congressman Burleson back, and
I'll show everybody how I set up my OpenClaw environment.
But for now, we got to leave it at that.
Unexpected joy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
All right, listen. All I want to say while we get ready for our next guest is scientists and generals are going missing. UFOs, the Rand Corporation is maybe involved. The CIA is doing exfils in Iran. The Cold War is back, baby. You heard it here first. The Cold War is back. Maybe it never left.
The chair is against the wall.
All right. Joining us now is the chairman of the Republican Study Committee, our host for this fantastic event, Texas Congressman August Pfluger. Congressman, always so great to see you. How's everything going? How's the event been going today?
Great to see you guys. And because of you, it's going really well. I mean, we've got 40 members that have showed up, several senators, folks that are talking about things. I mean, look, this is important because people need to hear the truth. They need to hear what's going on, and you don't always get that from broadcast. And let me just restate that. You never get that from broadcast. We need to reach our constituents in a creative way, and we took the president's lead on it. This is a result of that.
I want to ask you about Texas. Democrats have their sight set on it. You have there James Tallarico, who has raised the most money of pretty much anybody ever, if you look at the amount of cash that he's raked in. Texas has always been the dream for Democrats. Turn Texas blue.
Right.
How worried are you, regardless of what the outcome of the primary situation is, that Democrats will actually be able to lean into this wave that they anticipate so much in November, that they would be able to turn Texas blue?
Well, let me remind Democrats about this little place called the Alamo and our fighting spirit. So money doesn't
Everybody
fix everything.
died at the Alamo. I'm just pointing that
out. That spirit, however, and the lesson of that is really important to us as Texans, that they can come after it, okay, but we're going to win. This should be a warning sign. We should prepare. We should understand what the landscape looks like. But I think it's more of a reflection of Trump derangement syndrome than it is of anything else. Mm-hmm. Texans are strong and resilient, and there's a lot going on politically, but we're going to have a Republican senator in the state of Texas. We're going to have 2 Republican senators in the state of Texas. So,
how much are you going to miss Jasmine Crockett?
She was the gift that keeps on giving. So I think a lot of people actually are going to miss her a lot.
Well, don't worry, Ben. She's going to get a show on MS Now.
No. She is the next co-host of The View. I'm telling you now.
Let's get that on Kalshi.
In fact, we get that on Kalshi.
That's got to be a Kalshi market.
I will invest a sizable amount in that.
Either way, she won't be gone
right.
for long.
She is used to getting those clicks, but we had another person sworn in last night to the House of Representatives.
Yes, that's right.
Mahia from New Jersey.
Yep.
And in the grandstand, in the House gallery, they were chanting DSA, not USA, like we normal patriotic, country-loving, freedom-loving people would chant USA. DSA, Democrat Socialists of America.
And the problem really is, and you can see this in the polling, and we've done polling at Fox, we've done polling at DailyWire. We see the numbers, especially among younger Americans, that indicate that they overwhelmingly are in favor of the DSA arguments on virtually everything. Forget I mean, Hakeem Jeffries might be the most moderate member that you are sitting alongside on the Democratic
You've just
side.
ruined my day.
I'm sorry to ruin your day, Congressman, but the truth is the majority of Democrats actually agree with them on this stuff, on this crazy state-run groceries and, ban ICE. I mean, the kind of things that, Bill Clinton would probably be in the middle of the Republican Party if he was currently a candidate today. It's crazy. How do you deal with that level of crazy?
Well, we've been dealing with it in this little state called California.
Yeah.
Because they've gone full socialist. Look at their gas prices, which are 2x the rest of the country. Refineries are shutting down. People don't want to do business there. Tech is moving out. So I think you kind of see that playing out, but it is scary to hear you say these facts about some of our, members who are pretty out there that could be more moderate. But look, this is what we're fighting for.
Yeah.
We're fighting for liberty and freedom and a normal country that moves forward with national security and a good economy versus these people who want, this weird myopic Robin Hood effect.
Since we've already given you your nightmare fuel for the day, I'm going to go down that path a little bit more. So under your leadership, the study committee has become a real force, not just in the Republican Party, but on the Hill, right? I mean, you guys are at the forefront of introducing policies and, leading the charge on what Republican voters and Americans want. And in a large part, it's been relative to President Trump in the second term, right? Let's assume for a minute that the crazies win, that Republicans lose the majority in the midterms. How will you and the study committee pivot to address that? What would an August Pfluger-led Republican study committee look like in a minority Congress?
Well, thanks for ruining my day twice now.
I warned you.
I thought I did damage to him, man. You're like, come on.
Look, this is
no good deed goes
no
unpunished.
better time to kick him in than
He invites us. He hosts us.
We invite you to come and share the good news.
Yeah.
And the reality is this is a member-driven organization. We use policies and expertise from people like Eric Burleson that was just here and others. And we leverage what they're the best at, which is whatever subject they know, whichever issue they're passionate about, that's what we leverage and push. Now, the beauty about this organization is you're only chairman for 2 years. So it will be another chairman, but I know that the RSC will continue to fight for good conservative principles, lower taxes, a good economy, strong national defense. But the difference in a minority situation is you're going to have to fight the Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat Socialist of America, and really communicate this is reasonable, what we have been doing and the bills that we passed for the first 2 years, and everything else that the Democrats are championing, that's radical. And that takes our country into the gutter. You want another 250 years? Push that out and get back to normal. And I think that's going to be the challenge, were that, God forbid, the case. But I'm very hopeful that we're going to win the midterms, that communicating right now why you guys are here to get Republicans to turn out, give us the chance to continue to govern, which I think that we deserve that chance to do because a lot of good has been done in the last 2 years.
So the RSC exists in part because of the frustrations that Republicans had in the House with leadership, with a leadership that they felt was too beholden to the White House, that was not interested in the priorities of members and in supplying them with the types of arguments, research, coordination that they could have if they could band together. What we hear so much from the legacy media is that the Republican Party, they just do whatever Donald Trump tells them to do. They just march to whatever tune he's playing on a daily basis. Whether you think that tune is right or not, what is the importance of the RSC as an entity moving forward within a Republican majority to continue to argue for a conservative line of policy that is designed to pull that leadership, as reluctantly as they might be, in your direction?
I love this question. This is the essence of this organization. The RSC does act as the conservative conscience of this body. It's a three-part government, okay? We're co-equal. We have co-equal branches. The president was elected to deliver a mandate. Obviously, we love what he was elected to do. We have our role, and it's not easy. He's doing something that is very tough. We are doing something that is very tough, independent, and at times that's going the same direction. We hope that remains the case. But also at times, we have to bring up issues that our voters go, you know what, we're with you, but... And when they say but, we have to listen, and we have to understand the nuances of that. And the legacy media would be well served to actually report on those nuances because they are many, they're important, and they strengthen our country. So we're going to continue to do that. We don't shill for anybody, but we do believe in the reasons that he was elected, and that aligns us most of the time.
When did you become a Republican?
I was a Republican in 1980 when I was 3.5 years old, and I saw Ronald Reagan running, and I didn't know anything about what was going on, but I heard my parents talking about this. Remember, this is in Texas, when Texas was still very much a
Democrat then.
This was very much a Democrat-run state. But I could see the smile on his face. I knew nothing about it. 4.5, 5.5, 6.5, 7.5, 8.5. And then I really, when I was in first and second grade, as I understood how he was fighting against communism, against the Soviet Union, that's when I knew this is a guy I want to follow because he's got it right. We're good, they're bad. End of story.
When you look at your job in Congress, who are the members of Congress that you look back to, including maybe Texans, including maybe others, as being guidance, giving you guidance for your role?
Well, I'll go to Kevin Brady, a former member of Congress, who was the chairman of Ways and Means. I mean, you can't get a better guy who has the personality and the temperament, the leadership and the character. Somebody like that who really gets it on all fronts, and he knows how to deal with people, but he has the skills and the strategy to maneuver. And that's part of this game, is just being able to listen. And look, I think our leadership has done a great job. Now, we will continue to push them because that's our job. Okay. Our job is to remind them of what rank and file members and what our districts think.
I know we got to let you go, but I have one last question for you. You obviously are doing this, looking at new media, looking at people who are having audiences that don't just talk to legacy media. The 1994 revolution was built on C-SPAN and talk radio, okay? How do you take this current moment in new media when everything's falling apart? No offense to my colleagues at Fox, number one, in everybody's home. But the truth is that everybody knows we're shifting away from the old model. We're shifting away from Sunday shows that matter. We're shifting away from the New York Times having any power to do anything. How do you turn new media into something that can build the next revolution?
This is it. We need to talk to that 25-year-old who just graduated from college or is in the workforce that may not know about politics, that wants to hear something different than the Democrat socialist narrative. They don't buy it, and I don't buy it, but they want to know what's the other side.
They can tell there's something wrong.
They can tell there's something wrong. There's something that's not quite right. And this, you guys, and what you represent of speaking directly in a long-form interview style with a conversation, that is how we get the next generation to be involved. I'm hopeful. I think the next generation is smart. I think they're resourceful, and they're going to use technology and media in a new way. And we would be well served to embrace it, which is why the RSC has done this multiple times.
That's right. And we've Daily Wire has been proud to be here at all the RSC New Media Rows. We'll be here when you if you build it, we will come.
Love it.
Congressman Pfluger, thank you so much. Thank you again for having us today. We appreciate it. The chairman is a busy man. We're going to let him go. My colleague, Ben Domenech, is also a busy man, so we're going to let him go. Ben, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It was a pleasure.
Happy to cycle in for Cabot.
That's right, yes. We hope Cabot feels better with his alien diseases or something related to the missing scientists, maybe, who's to say. All right.
Got a little too close to one of those drones.
That's exactly right. Well, we're going to let Ben cycle out, and we're about to bring in my not a surprise, wonderful next co-host. So while she gets settled, I would just remind everybody that if you're watching on the Daily Wire app or on the website, thank you. We love that you're here. Please ask us questions. If you're watching on YouTube, again, welcome. If you're just joining us, we are here on Capitol Hill, the Republican Study Committee New Media Row. I'm Tim Rice. I'm the Daily Wire's Washington bureau chief, and I'm joined now by my friend Isabel Brown. Hi, Isabel.
How are you?
I'm so good. It's so great to see you.
I know. This was not in my plans for the day, and then I got a text this morning that our dear friend Cabot wasn't feeling well, so shout out to the GOAT, the man himself. But I thought, I live 20 minutes from the Hill. I can zip on over there and have some fun with my buddy Tim.
I also woke up, and we all have young kids, so we're all, I got my 2 hours of sleep between 3 and 5 a.m. and I wake up and I have this long text, and it starts Cabot's sick, and I'm like half asleep, and I on my glasses. I'm going, oh man, this is a nightmare, blah, blah, blah. And then I kind of, my eyes glazed to the bottom. And then it was like, oh, but Isabel's going to go. I was like, oh, well, you know.
Extra fun surprise these days.
So, you know, Isabel, just we'll do a quick recap, just get everyone up, remind everyone who's joining new and get you up to speed.
Yeah.
You know, Ben and I have just been here for an hour talking to members of the study committee. We have talked Virginia redistricting. We have talked the Trump administration. We have talked the upcoming White House Correspondents' Dinner. We're going to get back into that. We talked about everything. What are some things that you think we should talk about now? You're helping steer the ship now.
Well, I do think it's important for us to come back at the end, and I think we have some Virginia friends joining us about this redistricting effort. I just went and voted in Virginia about an hour ago, which I'm very excited about, and it looks like turnout is surprising across the board in some of these more rural counties across the state. But this is really the effort that I think the left is trying to champion, not just in Virginia, but across the country, especially before midterms, to solidify their attempted power grab for our country. It's really scary stuff, and it's really just the surface. When you start peeling back the layers in Virginia, how far these people are willing to go to cement radical authoritarian leftism, that is the playbook for what they want to accomplish in our country, too. So hopefully we can talk a little bit about that. Aliens, I guess, are in the news this week, so it might be worth talking about some of that, too.
We have been talking a lot about aliens.
All the good things.
Yeah, all the good things. So we'll get into that. Anyway, I'm so sorry. I just lost my train of thought there for a second.
Bad brain. It's okay.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. It's good to see you, Congressman. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Why don't you know what? I've been talking too much, and everyone's been hearing. Why don't you introduce? Talk to the camera. Tell our people, you know, who you are, where you're from. Long time listener, first time caller.
Long time, first time. Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri. So I made my way over here to the House side and
the dark side.
The dark side. But Pfluger is such a great guy who's hosting this. I want to make sure I came over, and plus, it's a good opportunity to talk to new media, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, I try to do this as much as I can, and I think this is where it's all going, and people are listening on their own time for as long as they want, and these longer form things are great because you can kind of delve into the some of the more interesting stuff beyond the
quick sound
the 60-second clip you might get, right?
On that note, Senator, I'm getting a lot of questions from my audience and Gen Z in particular about what the heck is going on over at the Senate side, particularly with the Save America Act. Can you give us an insight into what's happening?
Well, we got to get it done. I mean, I'm an original co-sponsor of it. I think, and I'm working with President Trump as it went from the two things, basically making sure American elections are for Americans. Photo ID, and then also the other three things, which is to make sure we cut back on the mail-in balloting scams we've seen over the years, right? No men and women's sports, and then ending transgender mutilation of our kids. That's all part of the legislation that's in front of the Senate. The truth of the matter is your audience knows, it's not a simple majority over there, at least not right now, right? And so I think the most likely path for us to get it done is this standing filibuster, this talking filibuster. And what does that mean? It means that we have to have the will to outlast them on the Senate floor. And so we have to have 51 people there at all times, and then it can extend on, and then they run out of steam, and then we ultimately get to a vote on it. That's the idea. So I hope we do it. I hope we spend all the time we need. What you're probably going to see, though, is this week, we got to make sure ICE and Border Patrol is funded. So we're going to work on kind of a skinny reconciliation, make sure they have the money. And we're going to supercharge the deportations in that, make sure they have multiple years of funding so Democrats can't do this again. But Save America Act is obviously very important to the country, not just our voters.
Mm-hmm. So the Save America Act is one of the more controversial, I would say surprisingly controversial bills, right? It shouldn't be, but sort of, and it's kind of even, dividing the Republican Party a little bit. Another is the Dignidad Act. This is,
originated from here on the dark side,
right here on the House. But you crossed, Senator, you crossed the Rubicon.
I opened myself up.
I am going to ask you about it. Talk to us about this bill, and more broadly, I mean, your thoughts on amnesty efforts. I mean, this is a lot of people are saying this undercuts what congressional Republicans and the Trump administration have been doing, but other people are saying, now that we've solved the main problem, again, it's literally called the Dignity Act, right? The idea is we can sort of re-inject some dignity, some compassion, humility, right? Again, there are even some Republicans making this argument. Where do you come down on this?
Well, it's interesting. I don't think the two topics that we just talked about are unrelated. I mean, the Democrats basically want people who come here legally to vote in our elections, right? Because they lost the case with the American people, so they want to import people, and hopefully they can stay in a permanent majority and pack the cord and add states to the union. That's their play. And I don't think they're actually even that bashful about saying anymore. They're kind of out in the open. So the Dignity Act, or whatever it's called, is a House creation. It'll come over to the Senate, and it's going to be dead on arrival. We're We're not doing mass amnesty. We're not doing it. We had mass migration that we're going to meet with mass deportations. That's my focus. We don't just have an illegal immigration problem in this country. We have a legal immigration problem. The H-1B visa program has been abused. And I grew up in a working class neighborhood. That's my family. And the betrayal by the elites in this country was to ship those jobs over to China, those blue collar jobs. And then when people were looking for another job, our country was flooded with illegal immigrants, suppressing wages and taking the jobs. Now we're seeing that with white collar jobs. We don't have a lack of talent. We have companies now that are hiring through the H-1B visa program cheaper, more compliant foreign labor, right? Because they don't have to pay them as much. And then the American workers have the indignity, speaking of dignity, indignity of having to train their foreign replacement to get their severance package. It's ridiculous. The OPT program is another legal immigration problem where it's a visa mill for foreign students. They pay full freight at our universities. Companies get a tax break for hiring them after the fact. And so you see engineering students, American engineering students coming out with the highest rates of unemployment out there because the foreign labor is cheaper and more compliant. So we got to not just seal the border, not just deport the people who've come here illegally, but also seal off this abuses we've seen with the legal immigration system we currently have.
I have to say, as a young person in particular, it really does feel like a slap in the face with seeing so many politicians and people in the media just be open and honest about the fact that this really is about a dollar figure, that this is about our GDP, and we refuse to pay more for better talent here in our country for American citizens that have worked so hard on our college campuses in particular to gain that beautiful degree that they think that they need to succeed. They then go through all of the right steps to get a job, but they're unemployable the minute that they graduate because it's a whole lot cheaper and a whole lot easier to import talent from other countries and even not talent, right? A lot of these are entry-level jobs that young people desperately want in this country. I found it really interesting with the introduction of the Dignidad Act here on the House side that right now Gen Z is really struggling with unemployment. There are about 10 million unemployed members of my generation in our country, and it was about 10 million illegal immigrants exactly that would be immediately granted dignity status, aka mass amnesty, if the Dignidad Act were to pass. I mean, what an amazing apples to apples comparison about where many members of Congress, again, this was introduced by a Republican, where their heads are at with what they think is politically convenient for them. But I think young people are going to have a huge reckoning for this in the next
Absolutely. And I think this new coalition that is the Republican Party that President Trump has put together, in order for us to, continue with that, we have to prove that we're willing to fight for them, the working people of this country. That's our coalition. It's a big, broader tent. The Democrats have a shrinking base. So what do they try to do? They try to add people from some other place to be Democrats and vote in their elections, even if they're not American citizens. That's what they want. But I also think there's a much more fundamental issue at play here, which is we're a nation. We're not some economic zone. This isn't just a place where we measure success by GDP. We're talking about real people who are attached to their communities, who've been disrespected by the elites in their government by sending their jobs somewhere else and replacing them with foreign, cheaper labor. And no country should do that. We've seen, if you want the cautionary tale, look at Europe. Europe is a disaster, and they've had mass migration, and they may have been past the tipping point. I don't know, but our friends on the other side of the Atlantic that share sort of this kind of heritage and religion and everything, Western civilization, quite frankly, they've kind of waved the white flag. We can't let that happen in this country. America, at this point, is sort of the beacon for Western civilization, and we have to stand up for our country. And America is for Americans. American elections are for Americans. We got to stop this nonsense of pretending that everybody can come here and nobody should ever have to leave. Right. That's a new phenomenon, and it's been driven by the radical left. And to my Republican friends, I would just say, our people expect us to lead and to fight for working people, working Americans, and that's what we should do.
Amen. Senator, you have been a leading conservative voice in the upper chamber, the good side across the way there, and it's good to hear that you're saying. I know. I was being so mean to Chairman Pfluger too. I was asking him to pretend that they lose the election. Anyway, I'll try to be nicer. This next question's not going to be as nice though. Maybe. What I was leading up to was you say it's the Dignidad Act is dead on arrival in the Senate, but if the rumor mill here in the swamp is true, you might not be in the Senate much longer because you might be over at the Justice Department. I've heard your name floated as a potential next Attorney General of the United States. What do you have to say about that?
I love my job that I have right now. And I actually can't believe, growing up, I grew up in a working class neighborhood, and I got to be the attorney general for my state. Now I get to represent Missouri, the Show Me State, and the U.S. Senate. So I love my job, and I'm going to keep fighting for them. And this is what I signed up for, and I really enjoy it. So.
All right.
All right. Well, maybe some other tea we can get into on the Senate side. There has been a lot of interesting conversation happening in Washington about the Senate leadership right now, and whether or not there is a deep service to the American people and the mandate that voters handed, not just President Trump, but Congress, certainly in the last major national election as well. It feels to me like there's a lot of playing politics these days here on Capitol Hill, far more than actually serving the American people. The Save America Act really failing to progress up to this point, just being one example of that. As a member, can you just shed a little bit of light for us on what the internal conversations are happening currently look like over there on the Senate side, and what the American people can expect moving forward with real leadership from people like yourself?
Well, I think we just have to continue to fight for them. I don't think we should rest on our laurels. Look, last year, which is ancient history in politics, but we should talk about in the midterms, right? When we unpack all the great things in the working families tax cut, the largest tax decrease in American history, those Trump accounts for kids, expanding educational opportunities, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. That's a pretty monumental piece of legislation. But we shouldn't just stop there. There's more to do. You mentioned the Save America Act. That's a piece of it. I think reforming legal immigration will be something we can do. But it's a different dynamic in the Senate with 60 votes.
Yep.
And that, at least for right now, that's where they're at. So I think we just have to be aggressive and continue to take the fight to Democrats. And also remember, we have to draw the distinction between, and look, I get frustrated with some of the stuff we don't get done over there. Believe me. I fly back and forth every week, and I stay very connected to people in the Show Me State. They ask me those same questions, so I get frustrated. But we got to remember what the alternative is too, right? When we're getting to the binary choice at the voting booth, these people are insane. They want to flood the country with 15 million people who are illegally. They will do that again. We'll have all the disastrous policies of Biden. We'll see censorship come back. When I was AG in Missouri, we fought it in the Missouri versus Biden case.
Yep.
So all those things, it's not to say we shouldn't be focused on ourselves, because we should. As a competitor, you want to continue to accomplish things on behalf of the people that sent you here. But we cannot lose sight of how absolutely batshit crazy the Democrats are on the other side. Okay?
Well said. Retweet for that.
I mean, I truly cannot think of a better note to end it on. And Senator, you have to scurry back to safety again in the upper chamber. Senator Eric Schmidt from the Show Me State, thank you so much.
Good to be with
for joining
you.
us. Always a pleasure.
For fighting for us over there.
We'll
We
keep
really
at it.
appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.
Take care. While we get our next guest settled, the Senator
Could not have said that better myself.
Senator Schmidt mentioned censorship, and I would just like to take this opportunity. I take any opportunity I can to plug the fact that the DailyWire was one of the outlets, along with the Federalist, some other folks who sued to dismantle the Biden administration's State Department's work with the GARM, the global censorship apparatus. We recently won. They had to settle with us, and as part of that settlement,
and the left is still working really hard on this, Tim. They're doing everything they can to bring censorship back. They can't at the national level.
They can't, and this is my favorite part of this, is that every year, forever, even under Democratic presidents, the State Department has to deliver a report to the Daily Wire proving that in the past year that they have not censored.
If only we could also get that to cover the Stop Nick Shirley Act happening in California, but we'll come for you next, Gavin Newsom. Don't worry.
Well, you heard it here first, Gavin. Anyway, our next guest, very excited to have my friend Sean Spicer, former White House press secretary and author. Sean, what's
oh my
that
God,
you have there? Oh my goodness.
It's a brand new book.
Did you write a new book? Do you have a new book coming out, Sean?
I did. Thank you for noticing. I feel like I should wear it.
I love that.
On a lapel. Well, I've learned my lesson. So President Trump was kind enough to write the foreword, but the deal is that when he did it, he said, this better be a bestseller. And that's a lot of pressure.
High pressure.
That's a lot of pressure. So I was like, all right, now I have to go everywhere with this book. So I'm excited. Go to Amazon right now. You can order it. I will tell you, the Daily Wire special, the deal, if you order the book on Amazon right now, and then send me a screenshot of it to contact@SeanSpicer.com. I'll send you a free book plate. And Isabel's a new mom. She knows most moms right now are saying, what should I ask my kid to get me?
Amen. For
and they are asking for
signed copy of Trump 2.0.
Yeah, so
I don't want to take care of anyone in my house. I want to sit down and read Sean's.
That's what. Right. Most moms. There was actually a poll. I don't remember who did it. There was a poll that came out, and it asked mothers across America, what do you want your son or daughter to give you for Mother's Day? And it was like 35-point spread. Trump 2.0 by Sean Spicer.
There you go.
Yeah, I was amazed.
Gotta love those polling numbers. When
I think the sound you hear is all of our viewers opening a new tab to go
right,
pre-order.
Go to Amazon right now.
So a couple of things.
Yeah.
One, Trump 2.0. Let's read the subtitle there. The revolution that will permanently transform America. The actual publication date is May 5th.
No, it's a week, Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
So coming up, everyone order. We were just talking before. Obviously, the book is about a lot of things about Trump. But we were just chatting.
But not just about Trump, but why.
Yeah. Tell me, let's get into that.
Well, look, again, I'm a political junkie. Like, I'll read anything. Literally, I read Hunter Biden's book. I read Corinne Jean-Pierre's book. I'm the guy.
Oof,
so she was like, somebody bought my book. I'm the guy. I actually paid for it, too, just FYI.
Wow.
But I love everything. And so one of the things that I think is fascinating about what this term is different, why Trump 2.0 is different, is 4 years out of office. Every other president except one has been sequential. Yep. And so what happens? Tuesday becomes Wednesday, becomes Thursday. The press secretary, the chief of staff, the secretary of HUD stays the same, right? And what happened was 4 years out of office, Trump and his team got to think, what will I do differently when I come back? Who will I surround myself? Who will I keep out of office? What are the policies that are pursued? How will I present? America First Policy Institute did a great job mapping that out. Project 2025 got completely ridiculed, but guess what? It was critical to thinking about who the staff are, what the policies are. And I examined that, the Maha movement, what it all means, how it all came to be. But if you care about politics, you need to understand why Trump 2.0 is different than Trump 1.0. And I said to the president the other day, he were going over the book in the Oval Office, and he said, Sean, we had a great first term. And I said, Mr. President, I'm not taking anything away. But let's face it, like, I remember when Jim Mattis was brought to the president at Bedminster, and they said, this guy will make a great Secretary of Defense. Spent an hour with him at Bedminster on December 5th, 2016, got on a plane, flew to North Carolina, and introduced him at a Trump rally. That was the extent of their relationship.
Yeah.
You look at Pete Hegseth now, they've probably known each other 15 years, right? You think about the relationship that Susie Wiles, chief of staff, had. Caroline Leavitt, my successor as press secretary. She was part of the first term, right? These people know him, they're familiar with him, and therefore they know not just him, but the agenda. When we were coming together, I remember like the first couple of days being like, hi, who are you? I'd be like, I'm the EPA administrator. My name's Scott Pruitt. I'd be like, wow, that's nice.
To meet you.
Hi, good to meet you. These guys know each other. There's a level of familiarity, and I liken it to a team. If you know, like, imagine you throw a bunch of people on the field and say, play a game. They might be really good athletes, but they need to know each other. They don't know the other team. This team came into office knowing each other, committed to an agenda, and I think that's the big difference.
Yeah, Sean, it's interesting to think back. I was a Trump 1.0 intern in 2018, which is so very fun to compare.
Thank you for making me feel old.
That even makes me feel old.
It's fine. But I was actually intern with Caroline at the exact same time. We were in the same class, summer of 2018. A lot of those interns went back to work for the administration full time. And most of them came back this time, too, which is always so fun. I always say it feels like a reunion episode of your favorite sitcom where everyone is like 5 years older, and now we're all
Well, but do you know how, like, for me, I told Sarah, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, is my deputy and then press secretary, now governor. We were joking a few months ago, and I said, Sarah, think about this. The 21, 22-year-olds that staffed our lower press office that are staffing now were 13 when I was press secretary. And she was like, don't make me think about
it. Don't say that, because that makes me feel old. But I will say it does feel a bit like a generational shift in terms of age demographics of everyone staffing the White House as well. And I remember...
And by the way, they're keeping up with an older president.
Yes.
Like, even when I was there, it was one thing.
Stamina of any man I've ever met. He, for his Marine One takeoff last Friday, stood outside in the heat for an hour and a half speaking to the press, probably just to annoy them, which is the greatest thing I've ever heard. But it is interesting to me that there are so many young families in particular running this administration, and the entire culture has shifted really substantially from be the first one to show up and the last one to leave to at 5 o'clock, go home, you can answer these emails with your children.
Do you know how much, like, and again, going back to my Sarah conversation, there's a degree of jealousy that we have. Because you're like,
I had lunch with the Governor Sanders a couple of weeks ago, and she was getting into this.
Because we talk about this because like we were like, it was new and different, and no one would tell us what we were getting to know President Trump in terms of like he was getting to know the office. He has a level of confidence now because he's been in the game. Like there's no learning curve this time. He's like, that's where the bathroom is. Like he's telling everybody else what's going on, and that we didn't have that again. it was a learning experience. I think it was phenomenal and historic what we did the first term. But when you come in knowing exactly what you want to do, how to do it, there was no learning curve. Tom Homan, day one's like, we're going to Boston, we're going here. He knew exactly where to go because they had time to plot it and plan it.
So a lot of, things, a lot of consistency, but a lot of changes in Trump 2.0. Yeah. One of the changes is that the president this weekend is attending the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
There's a chapter on that in here.
And I believe he never attended first
no,
term, right?
Nope, he's never been as president.
This is his first time as president. We are, as we've mentioned to some of our guests today, our broadcast is sponsored by Kalshi, which has a bunch of fun predictive markets for the Correspondents' Dinner. And so I, Sean, am going to put you on the spot here.
Okay. I think I know what I feel like O's the mentalist right now. I think if I had a piece of paper,
you do the
hold
Carson?
on, no. I need. Oh shoot. Okay, I'm actually going to write down your question.
Let's hear it.
Okay,
hold on.
You're going to write down the question I'm going to ask.
I'm going to do it like he does. No, don't look. That's how I think, right?
See, we've got a little floor show here. Wired and live, folks. You never know what's going to happen.
Okay. Okay, go.
Okay. Now I feel pressure.
Yeah.
Pick one off the beaten path topic that the president is going to mention in his address.
I actually think one on-message thing would be the off the beaten path. Meaning, he's going to get up there and be like, we won 7 swing states, we bombed Iran. He's just going to go, it's going to be a rally speech to him. And I think if he says anything about the press, that would be, I flip and invert that, which is, I think that anything that he says on and about that dinner will be the news. Because I see him just getting up there being like, we have done great things. The economy is booming. We're beating Iran. And
this is one of my favorite things about Spicer is he low-key has one of the best Trump
and the fake news is sitting out there. But I think most presidents go there and talk about democracy and the First Amendment. We might disagree, but you're committed to the First Amendment. That's all the fluff that you normally hear. None of that's going to happen.
This is going to be like, you're a loser.
Hey, looking out at a bunch of losers. And I actually think, I thought you were going to ask, is he going to walk out?
Oh, over under. What do you think?
Because I think if I was putting money, I might put a little on the he walks out.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, it's interesting you say that because one of the big trending things I'm seeing on X this week is that historically when they've had roasts of Comedy Central for President Trump before he was president, his one topic always off limits that you cannot roast, you cannot make fun of is his beautiful wife.
I was about to say.
And I would not be surprised with the documentary.
But let me kind of give you some inside scoop, right? So normally the way it works is the president of the White House Correspondents Association steps up and talks about how amazing they are and committed they are to the First Amendment, which apparently is just about them, nothing to do with assembly or free speech. It's just about the press part. They only read
newspaper amendment,
right?
Obviously,
it's the media amendment, and then they give out some awards to people who wrote crappy stories, and they all give themselves applause. Which, by the way, remember most of the stories that are being awarded at this dinner are for people who wrote stories critical of him.
Oh, totally.
So they're going to get up there for their reporting about Trump sucking, the Washington Post. So then what happens is then the president will speak, and then the comedian roasts him, right? This time it's O's the mentalist. So Trump's going to get the last laugh and the last word. So after Weida Zhang from CBS gets up and goes on her tirade, keep this in mind, and I'm giving you guys just a little insight. There will be a video that get played. I would not be surprised if that draws the ire of a lot of people in that room.
Okay. All right. Something to look forward to. And this is a good time to mention that we will be streaming the White House Correspondents' Dinner on Saturday on DailyWire.com
really?
And on the Daily Wire Plus app. Yeah, because, everyone's going to go bet on the Kalshi markets.
Okay, that's
and
fine.
See if you're right.
I actually think as long as that they're not getting any traction. When people say, is there anything you disagree with President Trump on? I go, he's going to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I'm going to the Substack party.
Ignore them. This is what I'm saying.
I'm going to that.
I also am going to the Substack.
Because I went last year, and you know what? Here's the funny thing. Let me just tell you this.
Yeah, we had fun last year.
So here's the deal. Last year, it was a bunch of lefties, a bunch of people who write boring middle-of-the-road columns, and then a bunch of guys on the right. I actually thought it was exactly what the First Amendment's all about.
Yeah.
A bunch of people celebrating their ability to say what they want under our Constitution, as opposed to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which is actually a bunch of people who hew to a line that hates conservatives. So I actually think that the irony of the weekend is that the dinner that you should go to is the Substack party, which actually celebrates the First Amendment.
I love that.
Well, Sean, apparently we'll see you at the Substack party.
I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Ain't no party. Have you gotten your outfit yet?
No.
Okay, I'm probably going to the Pentagon City Mall if you want to swing by.
Right.
Is there still a Forever 21 there? Because that's...
It's a tux. You got to wear a tux, Sean.
You have to wear a tux.
It's said it on the invitation. It's black tie.
Not like a T-shirt that has a tux?
That's fine. You know what? First Amendment, free
That's
speech,
right,
wherever
yeah.
you want.
Right?
I know. What are they going to do? Kick you out of the Renwick?
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is at a really nice place. It's free, right? Okay. I heard there might be copies of Trump 2.0 strategically placed.
Scattered throughout.
There we go.
Is that inappropriate if I bring a book to
No, I love it.
No, do it.
Guerrilla marketing 101.
Right. And then just start putting it, like move paintings and put it up.
Frankly, I think you should give a whole box of them to our beautiful current White House press secretary and have them just neatly placed on all of the seats in the press briefing room.
A parting gift for Peter Alexander from NBC.
I like
All right,
how
here
you
we go.
think.
Isabel's giving you...
Here's my... So what if should I go on The View or something? Would that get me...
Well, rumor has it, Sean, they don't let people with a brain on The View.
You just
we
need to hope
begged
that
to
they
go on and have a
talk
conversation,
about
and
you
they
on The
said
View.
no, not never.
No.
So good luck. But
Yeah. We don't want
If you get the chance, I would be very envious.
Really?
For sure.
Yeah.
I've thought about... We've during my first book, they asked if I wanted to go on, and I chose not to. I just don't... I don't know. I think they're not nice people.
No, but it is the easiest thing in the world to make their heads explode. Takes very, very little effort on your part, and it's quite entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
So
A lot of
it'll be a
room
fun
for
afternoon.
explosives in there.
Sean Spicer, author of Trump 2.0. Go buy the book. You've got your homework assignment. You're going to go buy a tux. You're going to get on The View.
Can I just rent one? I mean, like...
I'll leave it up to you.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Appreciate that.
All right, Sean, thank you
Thanks
so
for
much
having
for
me.
joining us.
You bet.
We'll see you soon.
I love that. Oh,
That is a great idea. Just put the books on the...
Well, I have a lot of great ideas about remodeling the White House press briefing room, not the least of which would be to tell all of these legacy media outlets, you are not entitled to a seat,
I know.
per se. You can stand in the back, and the people who actually get viewership, which is the new media, you all can have a seat in the first few rows of this teeny tiny room.
Listen, I couldn't agree more. Although I should say, for whichever member of the White House Correspondents Association is watching, we're very grateful. We just got us to the we got a permanent seat in the back, and we're sharing it with some other outlets. I obviously would love Caroline if
You're
you want
such
to
a
bring
good
us up,
diplomat,
but I
Tim.
don't want
My ire is so much
you have to remember though that it's not Caroline. It's
It's not.
the WHCA who sets the seat, so you have to be nice to these people.
Correct. And rumor has it, the president of the WHCA right now and I are longtime college alumni together. Who knew? Did not know
Wow.
that at the time. So there
Fascinating.
you go. You learn
All
something
right.
new every day.
Well, I was going to try to think of a clever transition to our next guest. I guess he speaks
Sorry,
for
I was
himself.
busy
So reading
Sean
listen to this guy. I
Spicer's
mean,
book.
honest to God.
book that you can definitely
I mean,
buy
our
on
next guest
Amazon.
probably needs
And
no
whatever books are
introduction.
sold.
That's a big deal.
For those,
that endorsement is huge.
Spicer, you got to go to the mall, man.
I'm a journalist. I'm not expected to read anything.
Well,
you
yes,
go.
for those of you outside the belt, for those of you inside the Beltway, our next guest needs no introduction. For all of you lucky so-and-sos at home, my friend, Matthew Foldy, editor-in-chief of the Washington Reporter. Hi, Foldy.
Who, dare I say, has the best outfit on Capitol Hill today.
Always.
I have to
But
say.
on-
I walked
Honestly, it's
in
not
before
really
and
saying
I said to Foldy, and I go, Foldy, I love your suit. And he goes, really? Usually,
Well, I'm just astonished because Tim is not a man of good style.
Oh, brutal.
Foldy, come on, man.
Roasted.
All right, fine. What do you want to talk about? I don't even have questions
I'm
for
on
you.
your show, and you've when you were my editor years ago, you gave it to me so hard every day that it's about time that I'm
This is
Turn
finally,
the
I'm
favor.
finally
This
able
is
to
this
take
is
it
this
back.
is this is my payback. I will say
This is my reparation.
I should say, and I should publicly admit this. When I was Foldy's editor, my main complaint always was Foldy always had a story, and he was always like, "So in this person, something was always anti-Semitic." He was
Yeah,
like,
and then
"There's
now
this-
you go and
there's
work at the
this
Daily
plot."
Wire. Okay.
And I'm like, Foldy, not everything is always anti-Semitic.
And
in
then
the intervening 5 years, I have come to find out that 9 times out of 10,
everything is actually
most bad things
anti-Semitic.
are usually anti-Semitic.
Oh my
so,
gosh.
Foldy, I have to hand it to you. I'm sorry to say.
And I do know that pains you. Not to admit that Jew hatred is a thing, but to admit that I am right.
Yeah, that's right. No,
Yeah.
yeah, very, very easy to say that I condemn anti-Semitism. Admitting Foldy had a point.
That is fair.
Daggers.
The reality is, if you hate Jews, you usually hate basically everything else that's good. We're just kind of a stand-in for
like the canary in
other
the coal
thing.
mine.
We are we're the history's oldest scapegoat and the canary in the coal mine. And so it brings me no joy, by the way, to admit that you're right. I would much rather have been wrong. What do I want to talk about? Gloria told me to come on the show and talk about whatever. So, I'm not here. I'm not here to.
All right, I know what I should.
I'm not
we
here to
go,
suck
yeah.
up to the WHCA. However, I'm proudly not invited to the dinner.
That is a badge of honor.
And I hope that every year, in fact, I hope that the building is taken out by a drone strike.
Foldy.
And so I'm giving you advanced warning. So when Trump leaves, you guys should leave. If
we're
Iran
not going, we just said this.
Trump. No, but not Brent is.
Sure.
Right. If Iran is to get one W in this war where we are annihilating them to kingdom come, we're bombing them backwards into the Stone Ages, we're bombing them forwards into the Stone Ages. I'm okay if they take out the WHCA.
All right. Well, that's Isabel. Please ask anything.
Have you lost all your sponsors? Okay. All right.
Let's talk some politics. So there's a big state referendum happening today in Virginia, just a few miles away.
Absolutely.
And I actually think this has profound impact on national politics as well. And everyone should be paying attention to it. Can you give us an overview on what's happening, why we should care about it, and where you see it expanding to the rest of the country?
Yeah, great question. So gerrymandering started with Democrats in New England when Elbridge Gerry drew a salamander-shaped district to get him elected to Congress many, many, many years ago. And Democrats have been doing this around the country. I'm from Maryland. I went to college in Chicago. And Democrats have perfected this as an art form of having politicians pick voters. And Trump recently, this election cycle basically wanted Republicans to do a little bit of gerrymandering of their own. Obviously, this kicked off in Texas, which I think was a miscalculation timing-wise, because it then allowed the lizard person running California, Gavin Newsom, to
Factually correct, by the way.
to pass an insane voter referendum that was basically, do you like puppies and kittens? And draw most likely 3 to 5 Republicans out of office.
Yeah.
So that's now what's happening in Virginia, where they're peak Orwellian, trying to, you read the ballot language that people are voting on today.
I just voted for it, actually, about an hour and a half ago. And I voted against it. I voted on the
But you don't even know, right? I mean, that's the thing, right?
Vote no. Exactly. No, but I read it, and I sat there. I actually videoed myself voting because I was in complete shock as I was reading it. It actually says, essentially, would you vote to restore fairness in Virginia's elections by creating these districts that look like lobster claws?
And it's
like, it does not make any sense.
I want to note for our audience, because not everyone is here or familiar with this, it's not just that it's partisan gerrymandering. It's currently in Virginia, about 5 years ago, the Virginians passed a referendum that changed the state constitution. So currently, congressional districts in Virginia are drawn not by the legislature, but by a committee that is combined of 8 bipartisan members of the state legislature and 8 citizens.
Yep.
And I forget how the citizens get chosen.
And
but
so no illegal immigrants.
So yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So it's
for now. With Spanberger, I don't know.
16-person commission, bipartisan, a mix of lawmakers. It's like the fairest possible way.
And it shakes out in the numbers that it's fair, too. There are 6 districts that typically tip towards Democrats, 5 that typically tip towards Republicans. Most political experts say this is the fairest state in the country when it comes to how this is drawn. Now, if you look at this new proposed map, 10
is being generous, by the way. They're going to be careening towards Democrats.
It's horrifying. And many of these more rural, very conservative districts are going to be represented by Fairfax County and Loudoun County, Arlington, all of these very blue areas that are actually geographically farther away from these rural counties than they are from, like, New Jersey. It makes no logical sense.
That's what's crazy about it. It's not, obviously the nature of gerrymandering is that it sort of draws strange districts together. But usually, in the best version of this, it's sort of looping around like some neighborhood that, kind of consistently
that's what Maryland
Republican,
Democrats
right?
do,
It's sort of, and that's where you get all these weird shapes. This is literally drawing columns.
Oh, it's bad.
Down the state. Like the part, and again, like I live in Northern Virginia. I'm not a native Virginian, so I probably can't claim this, but like it's functionally a different state, right? Northern Virginia is basically the Beltway. It's Washington, D.C.
Well, at one point it was Washington.
And then you get down,
which is a great point. I hope you are going to expand on that.
We're taking people here and saying they're going to represent Richmond, Charlottesville, anywhere, literally anywhere else, but where these people need to be contained, right?
Right. You'll have a fired DEI government employee who's running, or a former Jack Smith staffer. Some of them are running for Congress as highly partisan Democrats.
There's always a Vindman.
A Vindman is currently in Congress. He's got
a twin and a wife.
There's always
a
twin
family
running for Senate in Florida. I mean, they're everywhere. And so exactly right. The Democrats would go from, if they have their way today, so it is important for people to vote no on this, is they will go from one of the fairest maps in America, which I think is what people want, right, to literally the most gerrymandered state in the entire country. And everything that they're doing to justify this boils down to one word: Trump. So even when they're talking to Virginians, I live in Maryland. I still get the saturation ads everywhere you go on TV about all of this stuff. It is just
from
Donald
Obama
Trump this,
himself.
Donald Trump this, from Obama, from all of these people. And it has nothing to do, like, it. To me, I find it, if I were a Virginia voter, I would feel incredibly talked down to, patronized by these Democrats who are saying it doesn't really matter that it's not good for Virginia to just jettison any actual fairness. We're just going to do it because Trump, Trump and Trump. That's it. That is
every one of the signs for why you should vote yes for this. All over Northern Virginia literally says we have to stop MAGA from rigging elections.
Right.
Which is fun
it's
to
dystopian.
Respond to because I'm old enough to remember when rigging elections was impossible and totally a conspiracy theory and never something that you should ever say out loud in American politics. But that's quite literally what they are doing right now. And it's not just this referendum. And I think this is where people are confused and surprised. They're shocked that they hear Virginia has become this insane. They are also amending voter ID laws. They're working on hand counting ballots. They're making it illegal, theoretically, to hand count a ballot that otherwise could be counted by a machine. They want to criminalize Islamophobia. They want to tax when you walk your dog and watch Netflix and have DoorDash delivered.
They also want to ban
house.
having ICE within 500 miles of a polling station.
They already just passed one of the most crazy draconian gun control pieces of legislation the country's ever seen, which, by the way, they exempted themselves in the state government from. Nothing pervades to the state government whatsoever. And there are countless other examples. We could keep going for like an hour on how.
And on Virginia's flag, it says Sic Semper Tyrannis. So you would think that they would understand that they're doing the Tyrannus part right now.
And trying to cement it in perpetuity forever. Yeah, it's crazy.
For years, I've made fun of Foldy for living in Maryland, but maybe
we have had more years of Republican governors in Maryland in recent years than Virginia has had.
The rule has always been if you work in the DMV and you have young kids, you live in Virginia.
I know.
That always has been in the
we thought we were doing the right thing.
I know. We may have to make a move.
Listen, we welcome more Republicans. We welcome all Daily Wire listeners to move to Maryland because then we can have actually a great state.
Foldy, what a great transition you've set us up for. Speaking of Daily Wire listeners and viewers, we've got some subscriber questions, and you want to hang out and answer them with us?
Always.
It's not really a choice.
I hope they're all from Brent.
Hang out and All right. Well, first one: we can defund the police, but not the Taliban.
It's a fair question.
Foldy, I would like for you to take this one. Yeah.
Question personally, but yeah.
Well,
Foldy was almost a member of Congress, so
we can defund the Taliban. It just so happens that we did the opposite. We funded them. I wrote a lot about this at the time, and since then, when we surrendered Afghanistan in August 2021, we left upwards of $80 billion of highly sophisticated military technology. As we're just pummeling Iran, bombing them forward into the Stone Ages right now, these savage troglodyte animals. It would be really nice if we had Bagram Air Base from which to be doing some of these strikes. But Biden gave that up to the Taliban. We had a 20-year war, the longest war in American history, and we gave it back to the same people who were running the country beforehand. And it sent the exact opposite message that Donald Trump's foreign policy is doing. I've been here all day, running in the bathroom, just drinking Diet Cokes. I'm just going to the bathroom all the time. Mario Diaz-Balart, a Florida congressman, he has, in essence, the Don Roe doctrine outside his office. He's got a picture of Maduro. He's got a picture of the Ayatollah that we bombed to smithereens. It's night and day there, and we cannot forget that we literally handed the Taliban Afghanistan. So what did they do? They banned women from learning. They banned dancing and singing. And if it's banning Tim from dancing and singing, that's fine. But they banned anyone. They're taking the country back hundreds of years by the day. We sadly funded the Taliban. I don't know how we get that Pandora's box fixed. I'm not sure. But it is a disgrace, and it is going to come back and bite us. You see all of these Afghans who the Biden administration basically let in all the wrong people and let all the right people die and get murdered by the Taliban. We're going to still have to deal with that.
Yeah, and we're still allocating a significant portion of our budget. I just did some fun research on tax day to see what I was really paying for, which if you really want to feel nauseous today, please look that up for yourself. We're sending hundreds of millions of dollars to the Taliban in the form of condoms and birth control pills still to this day.
Well, you have to look out for the goats of Afghanistan.
I suppose so. So it really is crazy. It's like a Pandora's box, but we've got to get this under control because it really is crazy.
Paying them to fund Sharia law, to implement Sharia law, but then also to have contraception is make it make sense.
All right, I got to make it make sense question for you, Tim, that we have from a listener. Tim, between Zohran Mamdani and Abigail Spam Burglar, a.k.a. Spanberger, who is worse overall for the country?
Ooh, I love this question. No doubt in my mind, Abigail Spanberger. So,
totally agree.
I've been saying this for months, and I will continue to say it. Zohran Mamdani is he's a socialist. He's an anti-Semite. Shouts out Foldy.
It comes out. It all comes back.
He is a disaster, but he is the mayor of New York City. And this happens all the time. It happened with Bill de Blasio. It happens, I mean, actually it hasn't happened a lot recently, I should say, because it didn't happen with Eric Adams. And, but there are times, right?
Albanian citizen Eric Adams.
Local New York politicians, whether it's the mayor or some up-and-comer, these young liberals that take Manhattan, they take New York City by storm. And all of a sudden, they're the future of the Democratic Party. And it's like, it's not hard for a radical progressive to win
New York.
Yeah. Like, it's the craziest place in the world. It is possibly
you used to live there.
I used to live there.
Yeah.
I know of what I speak. New York City is probably the place that has the least in common with any other town, city, state, you name it, in the entire United States. So Zohran Mamdani is, I mean, look, yeah, he's young, he's charming, he's hamming it up with the president. Maybe he runs for Congress one day, but like, we already have radical, AOC broke that seal, right? We already have radical socialist members of Congress who may or may not like other countries more than they like the United States. Abigail Spanberger, as we were just talking about earlier, she ran as a moderate.
Yep. On affordability.
On whatever. She's like...
She did the CIA thing. She did the coup in Virginia.
She did the coup, but she also...
literally as a former CIA.
Right. She's lived in Virginia for 6 months. And again, it's Mikey Sherrill up in New Jersey.
Used to live in Saudi Arabia.
It's like different... This type of kind of sleeper cell Democrat candidate who, it seems not crazy. And again, this is the Mamdanis help people like this, right?
Yes.
Because if you're not, if you're just a nice white lady who just comes up and says, hi, I'm a mom and a wife, and I sure would like if taxes were lower. And as Isabel was just saying, what are the first things that Democrats did once they got control of the state house and had Spanberger in the governor's mansion? Banned guns. Mm-hmm. They're trying to draw this radical redistricting, and that's where it happens. It's that model of getting people like that in running blue states and purple states even more. That is 100%.
Turning red states blue, by the way, because when I was growing up, Virginia was, even though again Maryland has had more years of Republican governors recently, Virginia was not 10-1 blue, which is obviously what Democrats want it to be. One thing that's crazy with Spanberger is she is almost as inarticulate and stupid as Kamala Harris. I mean, the videos of her being asked about March Madness. I mean, it is like she would be Selena Meyer. Yeah. It is crazy how awkward she is. She was asked about her plummeting. She's historically unpopular because, as it turns out, normal people don't want their guns banned and the Democrats running everything. And her response was, well, why is my face on every ad about gerrymandering? I mean, it's like, are you joking? Who told you to write this?
I think she's awkward. Actually, she's that disconnected.
She looks weird when she's talking. She's very uncomfortable, which is a huge L for the Republicans to have blown that election.
But this is, I will say, this is the one saving grace of the Abigail Spanbergers of the world, is that they might be so awkward and inept that it undercuts their evil plans.
I don't know, because I see so much media interference on her behalf already for basically somebody that the country doesn't know who she is, right? The rest of the country is not paying very close attention to Virginia politics. I think you should be paying attention because this woman probably is the next Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris or whoever they want.
Which does mean they won't be president, by the way.
And they are running interference for her. They're putting her on the late night comedy shows. I watched a great CNN segment this week where Van Jones was saying, I can't believe people are calling this woman a radical leftist. That's crazy. That's beyond crazy. Of course, Scott Jennings handled it like a champ and had the greatest answer to it. But she is a radical, psychotic individual that is actually re-examining every existing prisoner's sentence currently in Virginia prisons to try to let them out of prison. They're eliminating mandatory minimum sentencing for child pornography distribution and rape and manslaughter. Just the craziest policies you could possibly imagine. But because she's kind of a goof and a buffoon on camera and a little awkward and feels like your school board mom at the PTO meeting, I don't think people think that she's a huge threat and that she does represent the radical left today.
This is why we need a lot more death penalty administration in America, because then you can't have Abigail Spanberger let them out of prison.
See, and we thought Terry McAuliffe was bad. All right, Isabel, question for you. Are our colleague, as they note, Cabot Phillips, has been calling the Dignidad Act the Dignifraud Act. Do you think that's a more accurate rebranding of the proposed legislation?
You know, I would at least just be happy if the legislation was in English to begin with. And I say that as a bilingual American. I do speak Spanish, but that alone is such a slap in the face. Honestly, it's disgusting that a sitting member of Congress is just trying to appease to an entire demographic of people that are not United States citizens. I actually lived in Miami the last couple of years for my husband's job, and that's the general area that the woman who introduced this legislation represents. And in particular, it's a slap in the face to Miami, where everyone did legally immigrate here and do everything the right way. People in South Florida hate illegal immigration, maybe more than any other demographic
Cubans, right?
in this country, because they
Republican
busted
voters.
their butt to get to this country the right way. They work incredibly hard. They cross all of their T's. They dot all of their I's. They pay all of their taxes. They vote in every election. They are deeply patriotic because they know what it means to be an American and have assimilated that way. And now you're watching this completely turn on its head and watch them really be used as cheap political pawns to gain some national attention here, which is really pathetic. So we can just start with calling it the mass amnesty bill, which is the other factor of this that is so deeply frustrating. Representative Salazar, who introduced this legislation, is continuing to go on national TV and say, well, read the legislation. It's not mass amnesty. We've read it many times. It is quite literally mass amnesty, and it's not okay.
I think perhaps my hottest political take is that we need to just strip all clever or like aesthetic
The
legislative names. Like, with all due respect to Chip Roy, who
that is not your hottest take, by the way. That's not even
only paid subscribers only. It's just like, just
subscribe
the
to DailyWire
HR
Plus,
10, or if it has to have words, the lowering insurance premiums. You put her what it is. Sometimes it's funny, and I like this Pelosi Act was the.
Right. Yeah.
Politicians
Ted Cruz had the El Chapo Act.
Yeah, they're funny, but it's the sort of, it's like executive orders, It's awesome when you're doing it, but then when the other side does it, it's just like...
Although I will say, I do know for a fact, you can take this to the bank, that when Tim and I were at the Free Beacon, I'd come to him and said, I have an exclusive on HR 17-4002. He'd say, that's too boring. I'd say, no, but Tim, it's called like the... El Chapo Act, to be like, oh, okay, now
you're just admitting that you were bad at pitching these stories.
I'm not saying that. I mean, and by the way, it would have come back to anti-Semitism in that bill, but it is true that bills, the Mamdani Act, for example, like, I don't even know what it stands for. I can already tell based on the name that I read it. I didn't deport and denaturalize Marxist.
Yeah, it's just too many letters. You're forgiven for not remembering.
But it is a way of drawing attention. It usually means that the legislation is not serious, but sometimes you do have something like the Stock Act, which is about stock trades, that does stand for something, and it is a serious bill that everyone in Congress violates all the time.
I will say Michael Knowles has maybe the best marketing brain I've ever come across. And don't tell him I told you that. We hate giving Knowles too many compliments. But Knowles had so many great retorts to the Dignidad Act when they first introduced it. He wanted the No Quiero Act. There was lots of good ones.
All right, you know what? I'm amending my previous hot take. We are allowed to have crazy acronyms, but Michael Knowles has to write all of the legislative. We'll
executive decree.
He has to write the bill. Then we're
That's
screwed.
something for him to do while he's hand rolling the Mayflowers.
Yeah.
He's just working and he's thinking up with names of bills.
We'll get the Mayflower Act.
The Mayflower
Probably.
Act. That's right. All right. Final question. I feel like we have to give it to Foldy.
I love it. Let's do it.
Foldy, is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes, and a taco is also a sandwich.
Okay, well, there we go.
Hot takes today on Capitol Hill.
These are the hard-hitting questions you come to Tim Rice for.
This is like classic Twitter. To be clear, this was a user question.
Yeah.
This is not a me question.
No, but obviously, it's a thing in between two pieces of bread.
On that note,
yeah. All right.
I don't know. Is this controversial?
No, I think it's not.
Is there also is an open face sandwich a sandwich? Yes.
I'm out of practice. This was like everything. Back when Twitter was fun. All due respect to Elon. Peace be upon him.
Speaking of fun, I want to take one more good look at these boots, because if every member of Congress was wearing these instead of flying every other country's flag outside their office.
I am very flexible, and I have matching.
We love that. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Well, Matthew Foldy.
Never have I done less prep for a show than I did for you guys today, and it speaks to the level of respect I have for you both.
Oh, thanks, buddy. We appreciate that. Matthew Foldy, editor-in-chief of the Washington Reporter. Check it out, guys. If you're going to read any website that isn't the Daily Wire, I give you permission to
take that.
To read that. So thanks, Foldy.
All right, adios, amigos. As Salazar might say.
Amen.
All right, guys. Well, we're wrapping up. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us these past couple of hours. Thanks to Ben Domenech who left. Thanks to Isabel Brown.
I know. I'm so glad I got to come hang out today.
We really appreciate it. I just watched the Isabel Brown show. Follow her on X. Read her stuff on the website.
Go vote no in Virginia.
Go vote no in Virginia, even especially if you don't live in Virginia. Maybe no.
You probably could get away with it, sadly. But
I just again thank you. To our lawyers. We're kidding.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. And just one more reminder, if you're not already registered, head over to dailywire.com, register. It's free. You can subscribe and become a paying member if you want. Lots more exclusive content and access to our hosts, our investigative reporting. You guys, when you subscribe, you make our shows like the Isabel Brown Show, the investigative reporting that we're doing here in Washington, events like this where we can come and talk to lawmakers and bring that right into your home. Like, you guys make that possible. We're really grateful for your support. So please register, download the app, subscribe if you'd like, engage with our content. And speaking of, we will be, just a reminder, streaming the White House Correspondents' Dinner on the Daily Wire this Saturday.
And
it's going to be
I'll
great.
See you at this party.
Yeah, Isabel and I will be at the Substack party. We'll probably be watching it we'll have it up on the phone. We'll be streaming. So again, subscribe, download, tune in, and thank you guys. This has been a extra special, extra live edition of Wired and Live. I'm Tim Rice here with Isabel Brown.
Isabel Brown.
Thank you, guys.
We're signing out.